TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift's Malibu Moon, AP Indy's leading sire 7 years running. Best of luck to the connections of Grade 1 winners Gormley and Karina Mia in this year's Breeders' Cup.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Breeders' Cup alongside Joel Cunningham. I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, we made it. This is our pick show, man, for the Breeders' Cup. We got 13 races to go through, so let's jump right in there. Let's start off with the juvenile turf. These are the Friday races. We got 4 to talk about. Let's start off with the juvenile turf. Tell me, who do you got in there?
We got a full field, John. I think there's going to be enough speed in this race. So the horse that I sided with was Good Samaritan, the WinStar horse. I love both of his races. Maiden win, I thought he had a measured win over a very good horse that comes back in here. And the race at Woodbine certainly runs past Conquest Fahrenheit, a good maiden winner there.
Sure.
Got a fast return on the buyer speed figure. Big turn of foot here. I mean, we loved his work when we saw it the other day. By the way, XBTV, if you want some really good information on these horses, a first-hand account, go watch all the workouts and gallops, because
awesome.
This horse is one that would move up in your mind. You know, these 2-year-olds, they change a lot this time of year. They're on the improve. He's a horse that doesn't show any ill effects of going to Woodbine, running that big race. To me, he's sitting on a monster performance. I think he has the best turn of foot in the race. So he gets the pick in here because I think he'll get enough pace. And the horse I'm interested in from Europe is Lancaster Bomber. You know, he's a half to X Celebration, a top miler. He likes a firm course. The only 2 bad races are on soft turf. They're bringing him over. He gets Lasix. He drew the 1 hole, but he has tactical speed. He's a horse that should love a 2-turn mile and is showing some quality, particularly in his last race.
All right, let's move now to the dirt mile. And Joel, there's a lot of good horses in here. We got Vijak, who set a course record last time out. You got Run Happy, the sprint champion. You got Gun Runner, the 3-year-old. And then you got Dortmund in there. Tell me, who do you got in the dirt mile?
I want to know what they're going to do with Run Happy. Are they going to put him on the lead and see how far he goes? How fast is he going to go early? Because I think that can make a big impact in this race, because pace is everything. And when I look at Dortmund, who is the deserving short price favorite in here, you know, I see the angle. They're trying to get a Grade 1 win, and he hadn't won in a year. Chrome's been whipping him, so they're going to take Arrogate against Chrome and put Dortmund in here at Santa Anita. He's working well. It all makes sense, right, until you put him in the gate and Run Happy goes too fast early. Dortmund gets run over late by a horse coming from the clouds or something. I could see that happening. Having said that, I'm picking Dortmund in here because I do think he's the class. He's your most likely winner at a mile for Bob Baffert, doing well on that racetrack.
All right, we're 2 in. You're already eating chalk. So
yeah,
let's
man.
go to the juvenile.
Lot of chalk.
Let's go to the juvenile fillies turf. You think this is your best bet of the Breeders' Cup? Tell me why.
Well, it's one of the only non-chalky horses I like, right? And what was scary is this is a competitive Breeders' Cup, and I started looking here, and I do like some fairly short prices this year. But when I look at Hydrangea, John, 6-1, the 1 horse in here in the juvenile fillies turf. Here's a filly that's been a runner-up in Group 1 a couple times. You see her here, runner-up behind another filly that's actually back in this race. A lot of the Coolmore connections there going. But the filly on the rail with a purple cap, Hydrangea, again, the 1 hole, but like her stablemate, Lancaster Bomber, she has that tactical speed. She's honest. She runs her race every time. And the thing that I like is, I think her stablemate might get more attention because Ryan Moore's on her, and that's roly-poly. But she drew the 13 hole, certainly has some class, but 13 hole is devastating in a 1-mile race there potentially. And then the 14 hole is the best American filly, and that's La Coronel, who I think is a pretty talented filly herself. But the fact that Hydrangea's top 2 filly she has to contend with in here drew so poorly, I'm going to give her as the best bet at what may be around 7-1, 8-1 odds.
All right, let's move now to the feature on Friday. And Joel, this race is stacked with talent. You have Stellar Wind, you have Beholder, you have Songbird, you have I'm a Chatterbox. So many good Carolina, so many good horses in here. Tell me, who do you think will take the feature on Friday?
This is the best race of the Breeders' Cup weekend, in my opinion. It's just top heavy. I mean, you mentioned 4 or 5 fillies there that legitimately can win this race in a lot of years. Songbird's going to be your favorite in here. You mentioned Beholder, she's already won this race. I'm going to go with Stellar Wind, John, because I think there's going to be enough pace in here to contend with Songbird early, who drew the rail. It's going to have to show speed, get away out of there. Going back to a mile and 1/8, I think this filly has been taken out of her game in her last 2, still has been beating Beholder. Now she gets another 60th of a mile, this daughter of Curlin. She's on top of her game. She loves Santa Anita. And I think, again, with the pace, I mean, Curlin is a tough filly.
Sure.
I'm a Chatterbox is in great form, a tough, fast filly. If they take something out of Songbird, which I think they have the ability to do early on, it sets it up for a late run for Stellar Wind.
All right, well, for me, I'm going to go with Beholder, and for a lot of the same reasons that you just mentioned. You know, there's going to be that pace that she can run at. She's been crying out for a horse to run at.
Absolutely.
She's been finding herself on the front end. Not her favorite place to be. I think she's still training well. Joel, I still think that she's a superstar filly. I think this race is going to set up perfectly for her. I'm giving it to Beholder. She's going to retire a champion and, you know, go into her next career.
A big part of me hopes you're right. And I love where she drew in here, and I think you're absolutely right. If she's the same old Beholder, I love where she drew, and I love the setup in this race. Mile and 8th at Santa Anita. She's got to prove she's the same Beholder.
I can already hear the comments, and neither one of us picked
No
Songbird.
Songbird.
They're going to think we're crazy, but that's all right. Let's move to Saturday, and let's talk about the juvenile fillies. This is your best long shot pick of the Breeders' Cup. Tell me why.
Because it's the most wide open race. I mean, you've got some Grade 1 winners in here coming from all over the place, but they're slow, John. You start looking at the speed figures across the board, and we've seen this in the juvenile fillies in years past. This isn't anything new, particularly when the East Coasters have to travel out here to California. I mean, we've seen long shot outcomes in this race when it's been slower type fields like this. So when I look at horses like Yellow Agate, you know, Union Strike, I think, you know, when we look back a year from now, we might say those were the two best fillies that come out of this race. But Yellow Agate going on the road, Christophe Clement, who usually does better with older horses, Manny Franco riding, she's going to have to make up ground. She's going to close on a track that there's no guarantee. And that's one thing I want to make a point about Santa Anita. Do your homework, watch the early races, pay attention. Be able to adjust. There are speed biases. Remember the last Breeders' Cup when Bayern went wire to wire. Speed biases occur at Santa Anita on big days, so pay attention, be willing to adjust. That's why it's so difficult for me to pick Yellow Agate going on the road. And Union Strike, she missed a month of training, switched barns. I don't know what you're going to get from her. I think she might be the best filly in the race, but I don't know what you're going to get from her. So when I start factoring all that in, even noted and quoted, love the way she's training.
Sure.
She ran slow last time, and I don't know how far she wants to go. Sweet Loretta coming into this fresh. I don't know if she's a legit two-turn filly, so I'm going to go with Champagne Room. She's 20-1 on the morning line. She's done nothing wrong. This is a home game for her. They lead her up from her own stall, and I think she had no shot last time out. I liked her in the Chandelier. Mike Smith got on her for the first time, and they didn't get along. She was skiing and climbing the entire backside, ran her race before they even got to the far turn, and Mike Smith just coasted her in, didn't beat her up. So she's a filly, again, with a two-turn pedigree being by Broken Bow. I think there's upside here, and again, it's not a good field, so I'll take 20-1 over a short price.
All right, this next one we can go through quick. The Americans like her. The Europeans like her. My only question is, do you like her in the Breeders' Cup, and that's Lady Eli?
I do. I loved her race last time out. I think the filly she beat last time out, and that field's pretty good. I mean, Centuria Italia, Cicalisi, two good fillies that could be on the board in this race. So Lady Eli with that tactical speed, even though with Pretty Perfect running here as a pace setter for Coolmore, Seventh Heaven launches from so far back. Lady Eli has a ton of class, third off the layoff. I love her tactical edge in here. I think she gets it done in a mile and a quarter.
All right, let's move to the sprint. And Joel, this is really two horses. I mean, the sprint's unpredictable. You can always say that a long shot can win. But we got AP Indian in here, and we have Lord Nelson.
Yeah.
It's East Coast, West Coast. Tell me, who do you like?
Those are the two. I mean, the class, the informed horses, all that. And you have the local advantage of Lord Nelson, who may have even needed his last start because he hadn't run since middle of the summer. However, I'm going to take the horse that, to me, has done it at every racetrack he's run at this year. He's just won so many races in the sprint division. He's faced better horses than overall than what Lord Nelson has faced. So he comes on the road, and Lord Nelson's going to take money over him. But AP Indian, to me, has had the comprehensive campaign. At 6 furlongs, he's going to be my pick in here. May wind up regretting that because I think Bob Baffert, Lord Nelson coming to this race very deliberately at home is very tough, but I'm going to go with AP Indian.
All right, I'm going with Lord Nelson because when Bob was here and we were talking about the sprint, he said the draw would be the most important. He drew well in here. I think that AP Indian has run, you know, he had to run his eyeballs out last time out at Keeneland. I think it might have taken a little bit out of him. Lord Nelson, I loved Lord Nelson's breeze the other day. I thought it was great watching him run that horse down. I think the horse is ready to go, so I'm picking Lord Nelson.
It's not a great field, and those are the two.
Let's move now to the turf sprint. Tell me, who do you got in there?
You know, turf sprint, John, I went with a lot in here. 8-1, Chad Brown. I mean, here's a horse with a big turn of foot. I think that's what you need in this race. He has 7 furlong form. His race last time out, he had all kinds of trouble. Ran against Taurus in a good 4-star day field, showed a big turn of foot late. They could have done a lot of things. Went to the Wood by Mile, went to the Shadwell.
Sure.
They trained up to this fresh. He looks a lot like Bobby's Kitten to me, who Chad Brown won with. I like a lot in his turn of foot.
All right, let's move now to the juvenile. And Joel, this is the race where we always see these stars of tomorrow. This is the race that always nails down the 2-year-old champion. This race is pretty wide open in here. There is a lot of solid horses. I want to know, who's your pick?
This is the most intriguing race of the weekend. Distaff may be the best top heavy. We don't know yet the hype of a lot of these 2-year-old colts. I do think this is the most intriguing race because I think there's a lot of talent in here. And I'm going with who I think may be the most talented, and that's not this time. I think his Iroquois win's still the best 2-year-old win I've seen this year from, both either colts or fillies. They've trained deliberately up to this race. They wanted to keep him sharp. They didn't want to have to bounce. I think he's the horse going 2 turns at a mile and 16th. If Robbie can keep him in the clear, find a good spot, he's the horse to beat.
Well, I like a horse that's coming into the race that's really been running well, and that's Practical Joke. I think that this horse looks good. He's running well. I'm giving him a big shot in here in the juvenile, and I think he might be our 2-year-old champion after the weekend.
Klimt is the other one for me that I'll be looking at.
Yeah, he drew the rail. I wonder, does that really hurt his chances?
I think he's going to get pace, though. Syndergaard, I think there's going to be a ton of pace in this race, and if it's not a speed bias type track, he's going to save all the ground inside. I think Baffert at home is dangerous.
All right, well, let's move on now and talk about the turf. I know, Joel, you typically like the Europeans in here. Are you doing that again this year?
For the turf, I am. Yeah, Highland Real. I mean, he's the horse that's tactical. I mean, we talked about it in the top 5 last week. I like him over Found, who wound up going in this race, not in the Classic. I like him because he's tactical, John. I don't see a lot of speed signed on in this year's turf. I think at that tight turf course, he's the kind of horse getting laced that should relish it. I think he's going to get such a jump on the horses like Flintshire, horses like Found, who maybe towards the end of her career here. I think Highland Real is the horse to beat. It's his time now.
All right, let's move to the filly and mare sprint, and tell me, who do you like in this race?
Filly and mare sprint. Again, I thought this was a pretty wide open race, but it's not a great race. There's not a lot of great mares in this race. Start looking at speed figures and form and whatnot. Have You Gone Away comes to mind, and Terrace Tango is interesting, and there's a couple local horses interesting. But for me, Karina Mia is the real top-class filly with all the upside in here that loves that middle distance of 7/8 and has tactical speed. When she ran in the Ballerina, Rosario was on her, moved a little earlier than they probably would have wanted to, and she hung late and got run over late. Still ran well. They put Leparoux back on her. She ran well last time out against Songbird, maybe going a little further than she wants. I think this is her trip.
All right, Joel, let's talk now about the mile. We see Tepin in here. She's really America's darling. She's been running so well. Tell me, do you pick her to win this race?
I can't go against her in here, John. I mean, I think she drew well enough. And again, the Europeans, to me, aren't scary this year. I start looking at them, and, Limato's a nice horse, but to me, he screams sprinter. He may be in terrific form. And if they're going 7/8 or, around 1 turn, maybe he could beat her, but I don't think he's going to beat her 2 turns here in America.
All right, now we move on to the feature race of Saturday. Joel, this is the Classic. We see California Chrome in here. He's training well. He's running lights out. He's undefeated this year. Joel, watching him train on XB TV has just been incredible. The horse looks fantastic. Do you pick California Chrome to win the Classic this year?
Well, speaking of XB TV and who looks fantastic, go back and watch Arrogate's last 3 works. My God, John, I mean, here's a horse. These might be the 2 best horses in the world. I mean that. I mean, I know Arrogate, he, really came and went in from Allowance Company to win the Travers, and a lot of people say, well, maybe it was just a fluky performance. I don't think so. I mean, here's this big, rangy, leggy colt. It just looks the part. I love the way he's training over there. I love that he drew it far outside with Mike Smith. He's a horse that he's big. You don't want to get him stopped. I think losing a little ground and being in the clear is going to be key for him. At 1.25 miles, perfect for him. He has all the upside in here. Like Lord Nelson, AP Indian, a 2-horse race in the sprint, I think this is a 2-horse race. I think they kick away from the field. I'm going to go with the upside here. I just think we could be seeing something really special with Arrogate. He's the horse with all the upside.
I'll tell you right now, hearing you say, California Chrome, Arrogate, 2 best horses in the world, I think there's 1 best horse in the world right now. That's California Chrome. I think Arrogate is too lightly raced to put him in that caliber with Chrome just yet. Chrome's training too well, looks fantastic. If he runs his race and Arrogate can beat him, I'll tip my cap and I'll say, hey, Arrogate, you just beat one of the best horses of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm talking about talent. I'm not talking about accomplishments. 4 to 5 or odds on of what Chrome's going to be. That's based on his accomplishments, the fact that he loves Santa Anita. He might even have a tactical edge over Arrogate, who's really, he's found himself on the lead in a couple of his races, but really he's a long striding horse that takes a while to get into stride. I don't expect him to show as much speed early as Chrome did, John, but again, when I look at his ability, that Travers win, the way he's training, the physical prowess, Bob Baffert's confidence, I say, wow, this could be a horse that could be American Pharoah-esque. That's what I think he is based on a talent when I look at him. So, again, maybe we'll look back at this and say, Joel, you're crazy for siding with Arrogate. Look at the accomplishment, $14 million. Well, actually, if he wins, it's going to be worth a lot more than that, California Chrome. I just think that Arrogate has all the upside in here in his own backyard, going 1.25 miles. If there's a horse that can beat Chrome, I think this is the one.
All right, well, thank you, Joel, and thank you guys for watching. I know we gave you some crazy picks. We said no on Songbird. You know, we said no on California Chrome.
Oh, you like him.
But, you know, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll go through all these races, and we'll start picking divisional champions.